It's Wednesday night, paint night tonight. Shooting live coming at you. Oh, here we go. It's on. It is not 10 o'clock yet. Holy cow, I think it's the earliest we've ever been on. As always, who's with us tonight? Do we have Mr. Riley Roberts? Is he there? There he is.
What's up?
Riley.
How's everybody doing tonight? How are you, Phil?
Good, brother. Thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Yeah. So I'm just pulling it up so I can get everybody look at their questions right now. So.
Right. So tonight I've got another commission piece I'm working on, more of a traditional black and white. And as always, Riley will be answering any of your comments as you write in. So please do that. We love that. It's the best part of the show. But we're going to start with the comments that we missed on the last episode. So it's time for viewer questions. Here we go. And we're back. Well done.
So,
all right.
We had Tracy Renee write in last week, or last episode, and she asked if you could paint the beautiful pink moon that we saw, what was it, last Friday, maybe?
Yeah.
And I think you got some pictures of that, didn't you?
I do. Thanks for writing in, Tracy. And that is a really unique moment. I actually recently had taken some pictures. I think it was a few moons back. I think we have a picture of that. And the neat part about capturing that is that actually happens like the day before the full moon. I think we have a little wider shot. And what's going on is that the moon comes up later and later as it becomes full. I think we got one more shot. And as the sun is setting, you get those pink hues in the night. This is kind of that twilight hour, and the moon reflects that. I love that. If you wait just a little bit longer, I think we have the moon as it comes up later in the night. The sun goes down, and then you get those traditional moon colors. There it is. So that's that same spot. Moments later, clouds are rolling in, sun is now set, moon's a little higher, and now you don't have those pink hues, so now you get back to those traditional colors. So I love that. Great question. That is on my paint list, so as soon as we get caught up with all these commissions, we'll definitely be painting a scene like that. What else you got, Riley?
Brian Pauly wrote in, and he asked if you have any inshore paintings with mangroves in them.
So I love that you asked this because I forgot about a really cool piece. We went into the Phillip Anthony vault and found the Key Largo tree. Man, I looked at the date of this when I found it. It was back in 2010. So this was done 10 years ago. Driving in and out of Key West, that's where my art career kind of started. And I remember taking that picture on the way out. Thank you for asking that question. That was a published piece. It wasn't even on our website. So we're going to upload that to the PhillipAnthonyStudios.com website. And that is available. That's a limited edition Jaclay. So thank you for asking that. That was great. Great question. Riley, what else you got?
And our last question comes from Tracy McGee. And she first asked, Phil, do you remember her?
I do. We kind of Facebook stalked you. And I pulled a picture. I was like, oh, it's Tracy. And then we also found a few pictures that you took when we met. So we found those, and this is the sunflower piece that we were creating. And I think there's another one. And yeah, that is You Are My Sunshine. I did a little embellishing on that, and that was awesome. Guys, keep doing this. I love it. Keep posting your pictures from the shows where we meet across the country. Throw that onto the Phillip Anthony Facebook and keep writing in, because that's what makes this show, and that's what it's all about. Hearing the stories behind the work and just the little extras that are the inspirations that have so much meaning behind the pieces. With that, there's the crowd. I was wondering where they were tonight. Hey, guys. So with that, what we're working on tonight is a commission from the Derubis Gallery in Maui. They wanted me to recreate an original of Silver Lining. I think we have a picture of Silver Lining. This is the piece that they saw. They saw a giclée over in that gallery in Maui, over in Lahaina, over on Front Street. This is Silver Lining. And this happens all the time. People, they see an original and they go, I'm sorry, they see a giclée. And they say, hey, is the original available? We'd already sold that. And so I'm going back to my photography from that day. And when I go out shooting, I shoot a few hundred shots usually. And then I'm picking out my few favorites. So I sent them a whole bunch of shots from that day. And they actually picked this one out. There's another shot from that same day. The big differences I see, the horizon's a little higher. You got the wave breaking off in the distance in that little corner. And I mean, this is the beauty of what we get every day, guys. There's so many unique details. There's so, just the way the water comes in and goes back out. So many just neat, interesting details that they make a painting come to life. And so there's no one right or wrong of which picture was the best, in a sense. And they picked a great one out, and that's what we're working on tonight. So if we can switch over to camera number 1, I'll show you kind of where we're at and what we're doing. So I've already blocked in my acrylics, and I'm actually now going to work in oil. So I mixed up a nice little gradient, and when I paint in black and white, I like to have this laid out, and what's going on in my mind is literally lighter, darker, angle. Those are probably the few questions in my mind. It's just very simple, and if I wish we could get even closer, but we do have a pretty good shot on camera number 1. The acrylic will block in the value and the shape, but the oil that I'm about to put on here, this is going to, when you get right up on top of it, you're not going to be able to tell, you're not going to see these broken up brush strokes and all. So we're going to get in with this, and you guys right into Riley, and yeah, let's do a little paint tonight. Here we go.
Yeah, we got a few people tuning in. Sherry Rowe.
Hello.
She says hello.
Welcome. I want to say welcome back. I think she's tuned into the show before.
And then George is back, and he said that this is actually one of his favorites.
Oh, cool. Welcome, welcome. Give me camera 1. I want to see where we're landing. Perfect. So I like to work background to foreground at this phase, guys. And so I'm going to work behind the clouds, and I'm going to try to match what value we have there. It's kind of in between these two. I got this crazy system in my mind. If I'm in between a color, I'll mix them up here in between. If I'm at that color, I'll work down below. And a little test dab, and we are off. So the other neat thing that's going to happen here, I'm going to overlap some of these clouds, and that's going to push them back. But when I come back to them, I'm going to overlap my background color, and they're going to blend seamlessly into that. So the acrylic will work on that top layer a lot, and sometimes you see little grooves and indentations in the canvas that make it kind of rough and break up, and you know it's a painting. But with the oil, it fills in all those grooves, and gosh, it looks just like a picture, a photograph when I get done with this. So I don't know how exciting this layer is to you guys. I don't know how much it picks up on there. Let's go camera one where we're a little closer in detail. And I am just bouncing in between. I'm looking at my photo references. And I'm also, now that I'm looking at the photo references, I'm starting to see some subtle values where I was a little off. Wow, Riley's speechless.
Yeah, actually, searching through, and I got a question here for you.
Sure.
You do a lot of kind of highly detailed scenes with the clouds, the waves, the beaches, and even some forest scenes that you've done. What would you say is your favorite one of those kind of high detailed pieces and parts of a piece to do? And then which one would be the most challenging for you?
Awesome question. Favorite, I would say my favorite pieces are constantly changing with whatever I've experienced. Or whenever I go into something new where I'm challenging myself. And so that could be a loose abstract piece, that can be an impressionistic piece, because those are scenes that I haven't done that much. That's my favorite right now. When I created this piece at the time, this was a pretty challenging piece when I first created it a few years back. But now, I would say the most challenging would have to be the wooded scenes because of all the detail that goes into those. So I'm seeing some nice little subtleties in here. And guys, a lot of times, I'm going to take a color lighter than what's supposed to go there if I know I'm going to overlap paint that's already laid down, because I'm going to be dropping that in and then blending it into there as I go. So that's part of what's going on right now. And in the edge of this cloud, it looks like I'm losing that edge, but I already in my mind know I'm coming back to it in a few minutes, and I'm going to pull that bright white edge out. Faith, how are you doing? We lost camera 2 and camera 3. We lost camera 2 and camera 3.
Yeah.
Never fear, we're on camera number 1. Talk me through it.
Camera 2 and camera 3 are both unresponsive. They are black. And
Well, I paint in black and white. That's okay. That's all right.
well, they're just blended on in there.
Go ahead and push the shutter all the way down. We're now giving a lesson on how to reboot a Nikon 3500.
Okay.
And then turn your live mode on.
Turn my light mode on.
Yep, toggle on the top, pull it back.
That one. Isn't that what I just did?
Hold on 2 seconds. Riley,
What's up?
chitty chat.
Chitty chat.
Right
What
here,
do you want me to talk about?
And then?
Okay. And then, wow. So
And
guys,
we're
we still are having some technical difficulties, but we're working those out.
Riley, look at the camera. We're looking good. You don't point that out.
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
So.
Guys,
We're back.
we're back. I knew it.
Nope, only on camera 1 and camera 3.
Camera 1 and camera 3. We're almost there.
Alright, hold on. Let me go back to camera 2.
Faith is on this, people. We got it. I'm painting. I'm creating. Write your comments in.
It's above my pay grade.
It's above my pay grade. Riley, can we get an applause for Faith
Applause
over
for
here?
Faith.
Yeah. Saving the day. There you go. We're back.
Good job, Faith.
We were all counting on you, and you came through. I don't know how much fun the show's going to be when we get all this stuff figured out.
It'll be like a vacation.
All right, so bringing those little subtleties in.
Ruth, what's up?
Ruth! So guys, I would continue doing what I'm doing right now, and I'm blending in these areas that when you look very close, it may not look like I'm doing much, but I'm just filling in the grain of the canvas where in person you can see the breakup in the texture. When you're painting, you have this woven canvas, right, in a sense. And so you have the top layer and then the layer underneath. And a lot of times when I'm painting, I'm hitting this top layer, and you sometimes see the white behind it in this layer here. And they're just really small little dots and little parts. And that's where that acrylic, it dries so fast and goes on thick that it'll hit that top layer and miss this bottom layer here. And that's why I love coming back in oil, because in coming back in oil, it's going to hit this top layer and penetrate through into that bottom layer. And again, that's part of me and my style. I paint so thin that that's just part of what happens. But in my approach, what I like to do is we'll go back and fill that in. And now, here's something that's going to come across really well to you guys.
Hey, Phil, can you kind of elaborate on that when you talk about painting thin or painting thick? I know, obviously, I know what that means, but when you have an artist like yourself who paints very thin, but then you do some palette knife pieces and you paint thickly, kind of what's the difference, and what can people kind of look for with that?
For sure. So a lot of times people think that there's texture going on in here, and it's not. It's actually the contrast of light and dark, and that gives the illusion that the painting is thick and sticking off the canvas. Actually, here's a great example. Let's see here. Yeah. So this paint, actually, go camera one. I'm fine. Thank you. All right. So this big glob here is thick, right? So you can see both these big chunks of paint here. Some artists will go in and just layer that and create that big, thick texture, and that's really interesting. It's not what I'm doing. I'm actually putting very little paint on my brush here, and depending on the effect, loading it up with turpentine to dilute it, and now I'm coming back, and again, I don't paint like a normal painter trying to carve things in. I'm trying to paint and make it look like what I saw there, going for this ultra realism, and in that sense, I'm not trying in one of these paintings to make it look like a painting. I'm trying to make it look like a photograph. But the camera so many times doesn't capture all the detail that we see there. Here's one of my favorite kind of ahas as far as why I do what I do, and why I started painting. So when you go out into a scene like this or a moment like this, if you go to take a picture, the camera is one lens, one exposure. Your iris is constantly adjusting. If I look into a bright light, my iris will shrink down. If I look into a dark area, my iris will open up. We don't think about that. That just always naturally happens. And so when you go to take a picture, think of a time where you took a picture of someone and there was a bright light behind them and they were silhouetted. That's because the exposure was for the background, not the foreground. The way you correct that in photography is use a flash, and now you've brightened them up, and now they all have the same exposure. But when you're shooting landscapes, you can't do that. So when I first started painting, there was no real Photoshop. I would shoot one exposure for my sky, and the foreground would be really dark. And then I would shoot the exact same scene where the foreground would be exposed, but the background would then be blown out. And so I could look at the right exposure for both and paint both those right exposures, and now I'm creating something that looks more like the moment you were there instead of the way the camera captured it in the moment.
Well, and that's something, Phil. I don't know if a lot of people kind of know about your work, but a lot of times you're working from multiple different photo references. Especially a lot of the black and whites, right? Aren't you taking like a sky from one scene and then the beach scene or the foreground from another completely different photograph sometimes?
Riley,
Too?
you're giving away the secrets. What are you doing, man?
That's not a secret.
Yeah, everyone knows that. No. So, yes, a lot of times I'm actually taking I'm taking maybe the sky from one place, the water from another. What I love about painting is that you're not limited to that 1 second of that moment that you're there like you are in photography. You can actually take all your favorite details. And what I mean by that is maybe in this moment, the sun comes out and you see that beautiful ray of light go on, right? Let's look at the actual photo reference for 1 second. So I take this photo and I got lucky. I captured that moment where the light came out. Well, maybe a few moments later, the waves fully hit all those rocks in the mid-horizon and they splash up, just like you see the one in the far corner there. Well, that's another detail that we could add in there that wasn't in that one particular second. Oh, yeah, actually. Camera number 3. Here we go. So what I'm looking at, thank you, Faith. Another round of applause for Faith. Here's what I'm looking at, guys. So when I go to recreate a scene like this, yeah, let me get out of the way here. So I have my original photo in the center, and that's in color. I've taken the saturation out to look at it in black and white, but you actually lose a lot of contrast when you do that, because if you can see the center photo, that yellow against the blue sky creates more contrast than what you normally see. So when I go to paint in black and white, if you look at the black and white version, it's blown out, it's kind of muted. It gives me a general idea of what to paint, but I'm going to go reassign different values, different lightnesses for the warmer colors to create more contrast and exaggerate that. And that's a big difference. That's kind of my unique style and how I approach that. There's no right or wrong. That's just what I like to do. That's just my approach. And I wasn't the first person to ever paint in black and white, but I think I was one of the first people 15 years ago to make it their full collection and to take it to the level of detail that I'd never seen anyone do at that time. And I wasn't trying to do it to be like anyone else. It was just, I think, the truest style to me, because I love black and white photography. I love sketching in pencil and charcoal. And here were these scenes that I was sketching, and the pencil could only take me so far. So now in picking a paint, I could control the white, which meant I can control the light. When you're sketching, it's only the white of the paper that's bringing all that light through. And so it's slow. You got this little pencil. You're working a huge piece, just doing this. And now I could go in and grab a big brush and cover this canvas and fly and move. I wasn't sitting here waiting for this tiny pencil to do what I envisioned there. I could actually, this could sort of keep up with what I was thinking and what I wanted to create and all. So, does that help, Riley? Is that, I think I went on a tangent, but I think that was a good tangent.
I think that works. Got some people tuning in right now. Rebecca Gatto said, "Hey, Phil."
Gatto, hello.
Also, Vaughn Williams said, "Good evening, Phil. He misses you."
Oh, Vaughn. Hello in the Orlando town, or the O-town.
And then Mama Duck has tuned in.
Oh.
And she said she loves watching you work.
Hi, Mama Duck. Miss you, love you. She actually has one of the very first oil paintings I ever did. So I am going to try to hunt down a picture of that and see if we can put that on here. I would love to see that. I'm so glad that you said hi because that just brought that memory back. That's awesome. Say hi to all the ducks out there. It's the Duckworths. That's Wally's mom. Okay. All right. So as I paint, guys, I'm always looking back at that reference. And so here we go, painting our happy clouds. What's that?
Is your view kind of cloudy?
No. Oh, is my view cloudy? Uh-oh. Riley, where's the badumch? Oh, you got the crickets. There she is. That's my punny wife. Yep.
We'll just give her all of them.
Okay. She's earned them tonight.
And Phil, you said this is a commission based off of Silver Linings, correct?
Yeah. For people tuning in right now, Faith, pull up Silver Linings. Show them the first inspiration that this came from and all.
It's my favorite piece.
Yeah, so we had someone see that in the gallery in Maui, and they want an original. So I went back to the photos of that day, and I'm creating an original based off one of the other photos, not that exact one, but one of the other photos that I took from that day.
And with all your work, I know there's kind of some stories behind most of your pieces. Is there a particular story behind Silver Lining?
Well, it's one of my few St. Augustine pieces. Got up early to catch a sunrise. That's not normal. And you know what's unique and neat is that these rocks here in the piece, I can't find those anymore. So this was before Matthew, and the pier is actually up here in this right-hand corner. I didn't paint it in. It's actually in the photo reference. Will you pull the photo up real quick because you'll see those details really well? Yeah, so the kind of in the upper, that first line below the horizon, those rocks right there, they used to be there, and that is looking south with the pier there, and they're not there anymore. So I loved the contrast that they created, and I'm sure they're somewhere down there, but they've been covered up over the last few years.
Brock Black has tuned in and said, very not normal, with a ha behind it.
Broccoli, good evening, sir. Thanks for tuning in.
Give you that, Brock.
There he is. You know, last time we mentioned Julie Rogers up in Hilton Head, and there's something I wanted to share with you guys that we didn't get around to. So she is an amazing photographer, and I think we actually have some of her photography. I think it starts with one of her turtle scenes here. I wanted to show her off. Yeah, so that's one of her original photos, and I wanted to bring her up because you have the whale's tail in there. Amazing wildlife photographer. She's got a bunch of limited editions that they sell through their gallery up in Hilton Head, up in Endangered Arts. And the other thing is that I normally work for my photography, but you'll see every year we do that show, and I like to do a painting based on one of her photographs. So I think we have one of her photographs with some sea oats. Yep. So, you know, it's fun to look at someone else's work and go, well, how would I create a scene from that? And here's this beautiful Hilton Head scene here. So I converted to black and white just to try to get my mind around it. I came up with a little different composition. So that's how I love these panoramics. And so I took that traditional style, made it a little more modern. And then here is Morning Solitude, which is the painting, and this is how I translated it. And, you know, there's a few things that I changed. Remember how I said the camera sees the scene one way and I see another? If we go back to the black and white photo, panoramic, you'll see like how dark the foreground is. That's not her fault. That's just she's taken a medium exposure which hits right around the horizon or where the light's hitting across the water and the sand. I'm trying to paint everything the way that my eye would see it if I focus it. So I lightened up the sand. The sun to me was a little blown out, so I brought that down. And that's the fun of painting versus photography in that sense. I think we have another photo that she took. I've got to create several photos from her work. So here's another Hilton Head scene, and I love that long beach that's so unique to it. Let's convert it to black and white. No, but here's something really interesting. Look, we're going to bounce back and forth between this and the color for a second, but stay here. So watch the sun and watch how much changes when we go from this black and white to color. There's so much contrast in those oranges and blues and yellow. And now watch when we go to black and white. And this is why when I paint, I'm going to reassign some of those values to create more contrast because I feel like there is a more dramatic impact in the sky. So now we have the painting that I created from there. It's hard to tell. There you go. So now the contrast of the foreground, that white foam, we exaggerated that. That creates more contrast, and then a really neat leading line and more values, different shades within the foreground. Oh, here's another one. We're jumping. This is Lost in the Light. I don't have the photo reference, but that's another painting that I created from Julie's. And I exaggerated this lightness. There's a lot more contrast. So it's one thing to create what you see and add all that contrast in there. And then I got to a point where I could do that, and I started exaggerating in different directions. So go back to Lost in Light for 1 second. And this was me purposely not putting that contrast in there to create this dreamy mood. And that's where it kind of got its name, Lost in the Light. And then I think we have one more of an oak tree. And then we have that converted to black and white, which I then painted as a nighttime scene. This is one of my favorite paintings I did of her work.
I don't have it.
And correct, we don't have it, which there's nothing really to show you. So that my point in all this is to archive your photos well, because that is literally one of my favorite paintings I've done from her work. And if I find it, I will put it back up there. But archive your photos well. That's the moral of the story. Yes. Okay. Anyways, back to painting.
So Phil, that first painting you pulled up with
Yes.
the Long Beach, it had the unfinished edges on it, and that's
Yes.
one of my personal favorite things you do when you'll kind of leave the edges of a piece unfinished. Is there any rhyme or reason to which pieces have finished edges and which pieces don't when it comes to your original work?
Totally my mood. It's whenever I'm about to create, I'm just staring at something and I'm just trying to figure out, well, how do I make this different, you know? And I did for a short period of time, that was actually acrylic on watercolor, that last piece. Can you pull that one up real quick, Faith? Yeah, and so I got told so many times, I know what you're doing. You're just painting on a print. And I would always say thank you, because that's a huge compliment. But I started ripping the edges of the watercolor paper so people could see that that's where the painting began. That was a piece of watercolor paper at that time. And it just became something unique and different that a lot of people liked. But it was really hard to do. So we only did a handful of those pieces. I'm jumping down here very intentionally. Normally, I would work hours to smooth out all those clouds, but I feel like I got to share with you what I was trying to do there. So I'm jumping down here to start bringing in some of the ripples. Uh-oh. Camera one down, but we're good. So I'm bringing in some of the ripples and blocking in this value here to kind of show you what I do at this stage.
Jamie Travis is tuned in and he's watching with us right now.
Jamie, what's up, brother? If you have any questions, write in, man. Glad you're here on the show. Camera one spare battery. Should be on the charger? It's not on the charger. Okay. Well, then we are going camera number 2. I was going to say that's very unlike us. So I'm in the zone right now. You can see the brush just going back and forth. You might see me skip across the painting and then come across. And what's really going on in that moment is that the brush is coming across slightly with no pressure, and then I see a line that I want and I pull it across. Riley.
What's up?
Let's cut to Riley in one of our favorite segments that's called, Hey Riley, say something to our audience while we fix camera number 1.
Well, Mark Dow is back and he said hello to Phil and Faith.
It's literally in the charger.
Ta-da!
I hope Phil doesn't make this a segment because I know you guys don't enjoy seeing my mug this big on the screen. But
we found it already. We on it, man.
Oh yeah, all right. So it'll be quicker than last time. I won't get up and do a dance for you guys this time. So I'm here if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out. And oh goodness, getting some feedback.
And we're going to camera 2.
And you're back. No, you're not. Not yet, maybe.
And
so, and then eventually, you guys want to get some jokes or something.
Get your live going.
Faithful, all the good artist jokes for me today. On that one episode we did, but eventually I will have some of those. So Jamie, you're watching right now. You're reaching out to me on the side, and if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. We're back, and there's no Phil. So, guys, not only did he do that, oh, he's a magician. He's a magician. He's back. Glad you're back, Phil. You have no audio.
We have audio.
Yeah.
So I originally got my degree in film and video production, so fixing these cameras is no problem. But bear with us, people. This will come to life. And we are getting it. Good night. I have to say thank you to my team for creating what we have as far as paint night tonight in the crazy short time that we have. This has been an idea and a concept in my mind for the last 10 years. And in this time where everything kind of slowed down, I just knew this was the moment. This was the time. Let's do this. And it is bringing me so much joy to be able to share this with you guys. So now we can get up and close, camera number 1, and show you these details.
1 hour work.
It's one thing to travel around and share with people, you know, around the country and all that, but it's another for all the people that have been following me these years to be able to do this on a regular basis for you guys. And I love doing that. Holy cow, we're at the hour mark. I'm going to give it another 5-10 minutes. And again, what I'm thinking right now, guys, what's going on in my mind? Remember, light, dark, but also angle, right? I'm always hearing, man, I can see those waves moving. I can hear them. And I really believe that when you connect the dots of all the angles that are going on, that's when it connects with a memory. And your mind, that memory unlocks all those details attached to it. And that's what's going on. If you get those angles right, it's going to lock that memory that you saw, and it's going to come to life. No pressure.
Mama Duck says that Jim Duckworth wanted to say hello, young grasshopper.
Oh! What's up, Mr. Jim? Jim was there before all this. Love to have you guys tuning in.
I think Mark Dowell's trying to get me in some trouble here.
Sounds about right.
Mark has a joke for us.
Uh-oh.
He said, "What's the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?"
I'm scared.
The people in Dubai do not like the Flintstones, but the people in Abu Dabba-do. Okay.
Abba-dabba-do.
Abba-dabba-do. Yeah, okay.
Woo!
That was decent. That was decent.
Wow.
Give it to him.
We need to get Mark on here for the delivery.
Yeah. I didn't really know how to pronounce some of those words.
Abba-dabba-do.
I'm sorry for butchering that joke, Mark Dow.
I can hear him go, "It's okay, dude." So, guys, this is that right side of the brain. You hear me talk about it. Look at the brush. I'm not thinking anymore. I am glancing over, back and forth, and it's switched. I don't even have to think about angles or lines. I just see highlight, shadow, and brush is just going. It's usually about an hour in all honesty, where I've laid enough in, and you just start to see it. I want to see, here's something good to point out. So as much as I'm covering some of the same areas, I'm also slightly adjusting the values. What's nice is this oil is going to stay wet for a few days, where in acrylics, my palette would have already dried completely once, I would say once by this time and point. And that's the nice part. So maybe I'm slightly glazing over this, but I'm dialing in and I'm tuning in to that exact value now, that shade, that darkness. That's right there.
Sabrina McCoskey has tuned in, and she said it's looking great.
Oh no, Bree, hello, welcome. Welcome to the show.
And I'm glad the viewers in the comments section are supporting me. Mark Dow did tell me that was okay. And then Caroline Kravitz, she said, for what it's worth, it was still a good joke. So I'm appreciating the support there.
This means a lot to Riley. All right, good.
I want to let everybody know that I appreciate that. We'll work on the delivery.
All right, I'm going to jump out of order just to show you guys something kind of neat. So what's standing out to me is the light right in this area, right? So normally that's one of the last things I do, but we're going to jump in just to show you some of what happens here. So you guys see the brush moving back and forth, but what I'm doing is I'm constantly glancing at that screen. And again, even though I'm just going back and forth right here, I'm paying attention to what angle these lines are going. These foam lines where the water's drawn back, it's extremely important to have those go in the right directions there. But I'm squinting my eyes, I'm staring at this reflection here, and I'm just filling that in. And this is where I love oil, guys. This is where it comes to life.
But I say it definitely has changed since you started on that from earlier.
Oh yeah. But
you can definitely see the depth.
Look at the angles, guys. This is what's going on in my mind. So I see this horizontal angle, and then as it comes down, I watch it change and go in direction. And that's what I'm envisioning the whole time. I'm looking at the angle here as we start to go down it, and then I see it change and tilt, and I'm projecting that right here, projecting that angle. And so I'm pulling back very specifically to create that. And then blending in. And what's going on, that tip of the brush, I'm actually twisting the brush. I was working the close-up. Here we go. So the brush is a flat, and as I'm painting, I might be pulling against the flat, or I might be twisting it so I get this narrow, sharp line and pulling there. As you see this, I'm literally turning and twisting the brush and applying harder pressure or lighter pressure to create what you're seeing as the brush is just going back and forth across the screen here. What's really neat is I tore my rotator cuff a few years back, and so I couldn't use my right arm. And I thought, well, let me give a shot painting with my left arm. And it was funny because in my mind, I knew all the right values that had to go down. And I can see where they need to go. But there is so much muscle memory in my hand here. So I'm staring at my left hand going, go this way, go that direction. And it was a very good impressionistic painting. A lot of people liked it. Did not have the realism that I normally have. I liked it. And as soon as my shoulder got better, I came back to that piece. And I added all the detail in there. So
Gene and Sabrina, they're just tuning in, and Sabrina says, this is amazing. And she's wondering if you're selling this piece right now. Sabrina, this is actually a commission based off of one of Phil's pieces called Silver Linings.
Yeah, pull up Silver Lining real quick. So this is a commission through the Maui Gallery, and I'm trying to use this time to get caught up on all my commissions. I love you guys who are commissioning work through me. It is a good 6 months to a year right now to get a commission. And it's something that I do in between all the shows and traveling around. And I'm trying to take advantage of the time that we have right now and work on these. I'm real excited about some of the others that are coming. Actually, this is a great segue for what we'll do on our next episode. This is giving me an idea. So, I mean, I have a commission of horses coming out of the sky that's coming up. We had a commission of a gentleman's wife in front of the moon. Commissions are so much fun because they send me in directions that I may have never gone. And, you know, the first few years of painting, I loved the challenge of trying to create realism and create something I never created before. And I would say 5 years in, I created a piece called Light of Hope. You can actually see that on the Phillip Anthony website, philipanthonystudios.com. And Light of Hope was the first piece where I went, there's nothing else I would change in this. You know, up until that point, you might create a scene and, you know, I'd only been painting for 5 years, so maybe I got 85, 90% of the piece right, and I loved it. But maybe some areas were too dark or some areas were too light. And 5 years in, I always tell people, if there's something that you love and you devote a good 5 years to it, you can master that. And 5 years in, I painted Light of Hope, and I still, to this day, would never change a thing about it. That piece came to life, and I love it. So, same to you guys. What do you love? If you focus on that now, where could you be with that 5 years from now? Actually, Brock Black, if you're watching, that's a great story, because it was about 5 years ago that he came to me and went, man, I want to airbrush. And he came down to Florida and stayed with me for a while, and I showed him everything I knew, and he developed his own thing on top of that, and I am so proud and amazed at the work that he's creating now. I think it's Brock Black Designs. I'm not sure if that's the official website. I think you can find him on Facebook, Brock Black. Totally different style, totally different thing. It's automotive, motorcycles, painting and grinding, but so proud of what he's done and become by taking that focus. And that's what this show is all about, guys. You share your stories, your inspirations. We come together and inspire each other, share the knowledge that we have, and use our gifts to help each other. And it's amazing to see what comes from that when you put that time and you focus. It's beautiful to see what happens. So thank you for joining me tonight. I think that's a good segue to leave on. And Riley Roberts was in the house. Is he still over there? Riley, there he is. All right. Thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for being
thanks for having me.
My sidekick. And you guys have a blessed night. I'm going to keep on painting, and we will see you shortly this week. Have a great night, guys.